Hi guys, this is Mario from MarioLife.com, and on the line today, for the very first time, I have a brilliant artist, Spubba the Mad, from the other side of the Atlantic Ocean. Welcome, Brenda. I may say Brenda, we just confirmed that.
Hi, Mario.
Okay, for those who don't know, Brenda is a great artist. Her work just rocks. I will open up her webcomic, The Artemis Incident. And I want to have a look at your artwork, Brenda. Maybe you tell us about how you started out as a comic book artist.
Well, I've been drawing comics for about 10 years. I'm entirely self-taught, and it's a hobby for me these days. I did it for a while professionally as well, and I still do some drawings professionally, but I've never been to art school or done anything like that. It's just something that I did for fun and sometimes for money.
Well, when I look at your artwork and I hear you calling, and we had a chat last night, and I already said to you that I'm kind of jealous when I see the results you have, and I think that other hobby artists find it nearly unbelievable that what you are drawing is just a hobby. It's just amazing.
Oh, thank you, Mario. I just practiced out of books, and I don't like everything I draw. See, I can look at my stuff and I think I suck.
But I think this is the point where all artists can agree, be it hobby artists or professionals. They are never satisfied with the end result. Are you satisfied, or do you always have in mind that it could have been better, or that it's not precisely what you had in mind?
I'm never satisfied, and honestly, I think that's okay. I think it's okay to not be completely satisfied with your work, because that pushes you to improve. I think it's a healthy attitude to have, to say, well, this is good, but I'm sure there's things I can do better next time.
Yeah, and I have to say, I don't see anything what you could do better next time. And when I see your work, I wouldn't see anything where I would say, no, this could have been better. It's just from the artistic point of view, I have to rethink my own webcomic when I see this. What's very interesting about you and your art is that you like to draw men.
Yes, that's my favorite thing to draw.
Yeah, and do you think this is a typical female thing? I think a male-female thing. All males like to draw women and or comic babes, and a woman tend to more to the other side?
I don't know. I haven't really paid a whole lot of attention. I noticed that women in general, they seem to like to draw women as well. And I don't know why that is. A lot of people say that drawing men is harder than drawing women, and that may be true.
Yeah, and I think this is true for some reason. I just can tell it from my point of view, of course. If you are drawing men and you like it more to draw women, but if when you are drawing your webcomic, you have to draw the male characters as well, of course, and then it's more a thing you have to draw than you really like to draw. I think that I are less passionate about drawing male characters, and you can see this in the results, I guess.
I see that a lot. I've seen that in some, comic books that get published and put on the shelf in the comic book store, and you can open up the page and you can tell just by looking at the page the parts that the artist enjoyed the most.
Yeah.
Because they will draw one character very nicely, and then the other character is just kind of there. And you can tell that they just like to draw the one character.
Yeah, because they have to.
Yeah, right. Because and when you're doing comics, you have to I guess, disconnect yourself from, well, I just really want to draw this one guy. You have to draw him. You have to draw his friends. You have to draw the world he lives in, and that can be very tedious.
Yeah, especially the world he lives in, and I see in your very first pages, right from the start in your webcomic, that you give very much attention to details. Even the
I cheat. I cheat. A lot of these are models. So I'm using Manga Studio to render 3D models.
Of course. We don't mention this now officially, but we all do. But I know from experience, even if you use in Manga Studio these 3D models that you can import, you still have a lot of work in the inking process. Or do I see it the wrong way? Have you techniques that I didn't discover yet?
Well, if you go to the first page of the webcomic, which is page 1, I know the web page opens up like on the last page, but on the first page, when I rendered, like I start out with these lights. There's some lamps.
Yeah. What I see, there's are lights, and first they are off, and then they are on, and
yeah, when I rendered those out, it was more than just, dropping it into Manga Studio and rendering it. I actually, I made several layers worth of renders, and I used the save selection tool to create the shading and the screen tones so that it's not just a flat render. I layered in the screen tones over these just to create more texture and make it look less like I plopped a 3D object into the panel, which is, what I did, but I wanted to make it look a little more interesting. And there's a lot of handwork in there too, because when the lights are on, of course you have to erase all of that, because that was a screen tone there. So, there's still some work involved.
Yeah, and I know this takes a certain amount of time. How long did you work on these 2 small panels? Do you remember?
It was a few hours, because I had to get into Lightwave for the modeling part of it.
Yeah, a few hours, and this is very hard. And this is what many people don't see or don't recognize, how much work, even so you working digitally, that this is not magic, that it's not happening all by itself. And when you tell me that you were busy a few hours for those 2 panels, this just proves my opinion right, that there's so much time spent in all this. And this is also a reason when I read a comic book, and they are, most of the professional comic books, of course, they are very drawn, very beautiful, just like your webcomic, The Artemis Incident. And when I think I browse too fast through the pages because I'm following the story, reading the word balloons, and sometimes I feel guilty because I don't pay enough attention to every single panel what's in there. You know what? You can imagine what I mean. How do you feel about this?
A lot of times when I have a comic book, of course I collect them, here at home too.
Yeah.
If I have one that I like, when I was a kid, I used to do this too. I will actually go back and look at all the details and all of the panels, because the artist will put so much in there that you may not see while you're reading through.
Mm-hmm.
So I may go through and read it, but I always go back and look at the details.
Yeah, I can imagine if you witnessed, or if you see that somebody's reading your comic, and you see they are browsing very fast through it, that you have the feeling then to say, what are you doing? I put so many hours, and you just look for a fraction of a second at this panel?
Oh, no. I'm just happy if people look at it, really. Even if they just ask me, what's going to happen next?
Yeah, great. Sometimes I think that there are comic book artists that think the other way around. They think, oh, let's leave out all these details. People don't look at them that long anyway. Do you think this is true?
I don't know. I can't speak for anybody else's
Yeah.
creative process. I put in details if I think it's fun. I try not to rush through my drawing my pages too
Mm-hmm.
much. I don't want to be in a hurry for any of this.
You are right now working on this webcomic, or do you have other projects?
Well, work has been keeping me busy lately, so I haven't spent a whole lot of time on my artwork lately. And also, my brother has a business, and I've been doing a little bit of work for him on the side. So I've set the comic aside for right now. I'm still working on the story aspect of it because I'm not really happy with how the story was progressing. This is the first comic that I wrote. I've drawn other comics, but I've always drawn other people's scripts. This is the first one that I've tried writing by
Mm-hmm.
myself. And you said something really cool last night. You said it's like doing a movie of your story because this is based on a book that I wrote. And I'm having a hard time translating the novelization to the comic page.
Yeah, this is what we talked about last night, and this is very interesting because we have some similarities in our backgrounds. We both are also writers, and I guess you are a person who has interests in more than just one creative process. You are creative in more fields than just drawing.
Yeah, I would say that's true.
Yeah, I know this, and what I'm jealous of, and I told you this last night, is that you stay focused on just that one thing, and you have great results.
Well, I tend to lose a lot of focus too, because
Mm-hmm.
of work and everything else that's going on in my life. I lose focus a lot. I think I would be more focused if I didn't have a job and other things going on too. So I wouldn't call myself a particularly focused person, but I try to finish, like, if I start a page, I try to finish it. I don't have a whole lot of unfinished pages sitting around right now. I do have some scripts for this that I'm working on because I was having a hard time with the progression of the story. And it's a skill that I'm trying to develop, is this telling of the story, I guess what they call the thumbnails, the storyboarding of the comic.
Mm-hmm.
I'm having a hard time with that. So I'm working on that skill.
And how do you want to do this the storyboarding? It's a weird question. I can imagine that you can answer it so right from the spot. Maybe I tell you how I try to do it, as we both are adapting our books, our regular novels into comic books, webcomic, or however you may call it. Are you making your storyboard on a sheet of paper, where you roughly sketch the characters and the action, and then go to Manga Studio? Or are you doing it right in Manga Studio and in fact lay out a page already with all the panels and rough sketches? This is the way I do it, and then I always tend to stop halfway with this and then draw one of these panels because I can't wait to see it come to life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's not the process that I use. For paneling out comic books, I actually do get away from the computer,
Mm-hmm.
and I try to find a lot of paper to work with,
Uh-huh.
and I'll take a pencil with a good eraser and try to lay out the comic panels the way I want them to look in the book, and then start to sketch in very roughly, I'm talking like stick figures,
Mm-hmm.
how the action is going to progress. And because I'm doing this on paper, I get a feel for how big things will be on the page much better than when I'm staring at the computer screen.
Mm-hmm.
And I can also lay the pages next to each other. So imagining that I have a printed book, because that's, the ultimate goal is to have a printed book. And I try to make sure that the panels flow together from page to page.
Mm-hmm.
So even whether or not you have a printed book, the action you shouldn't feel like you're reading a series of short stories, one to a page. It should feel like you're reading continuously. And I think that's where I'm starting to get tripped up is the action is feeling jumpy to me. So I'm going to be working harder on that.
Mm-hmm. This brings me to a next question. Are you doing the rough sketches or the pencil work on paper, scan it in, and then go in Manga Studio for the inking process? Or do you all the work in Manga Studio?
Now, once I've got a concept for a page down, I just set it next to the computer. I have a paper holder.
Mm-hmm.
I just set it next to the monitor, and I open up Manga Studio, and that's when I start to work in Manga Studio. I don't scan anything in.
Yeah, a question that interests, I believe, many users or many new users of drawing tablets is how do you or how did you experience the problem with the hand-eye coordination when you draw? Because you don't look, if you don't have a Cintiq, you draw on the table and look at the screen. And I always say it's a matter of 15 minutes to get used to it. How did you experience this?
I didn't even. Wow. It was. I didn't have any problems with that ever. I use the tablet for drawing and sketching, and I also use it for things that you wouldn't think that a tablet is used for. I use it for 3D modeling.
Mm-hmm.
So, to me, it's very natural. I actually set the tablet off to my right-hand side. I programmed my keyboard to have just one key for every function in Manga Studio.
Yeah.
So the ones that I use the most are on the left-hand home keys.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have to think about what hotkeys I'm hitting. It's kind of like I just draw with the right hand, and with the left hand I control the interface.
So in fact you didn't have to give it a second thought, or there were no barriers for you that you thought, oh gosh, now I have to get used to this. It just came natural.
It did.
Yeah. Okay, I want to go to a fact, and that is a funny thing that you experienced a lot of times. When I first met you in the virtual world, I thought you were a gay man. and you told me that this is not the exception.
No, most people assume that, and that's okay. I really don't mind that, because when you're a woman on the internet and people can be really aggressive with you.
Mm.
So I just let them think whatever they want.
Yeah, of course. One interesting thing is that you also like to draw adult-rated stuff.
Yeah, and that's the other reason why it's okay if people think I'm a man online.
Yeah, I want to go to your DeviantArt account. You've drawn a woman, a girl in the pink panties.
Yes.
And for those who want to see more work on DeviantArt from Spubba, it's spubba.deviantart.com, where you also can see the adult-rated stuff here. Oh no, that was on your gallery page. May I say this? How people can go to the adult-rated stuff? Or
well, they can find it from my homepage.
yeah, but I may say where they have to click, or
yeah, if you go to my gallery page on my website, you can click down at the bottom and it'll take you to the adult gallery.
okay. I just tell the people, you can go, if you want to see this, you just can go to the gallery page. Then you scroll all the way down and there are these funny Indians on wooden bikes. Click on it and you come to the gallery page, and then you can watch the stuff that's not suited for minors. Let's put it this way.
Yeah.
It's always funny, and it's even, we are living in 2011. The whole adult industry stuff is still a thing. Millions of movies are made that are never watched by anybody.
That's what we say here too. That's what I'm always saying. I say the adult industry makes lots and lots of money on a product that no one consumes.
Yeah, yes, precise billions of money. And yes, and I have admit, I once saw one of those movies by accident. However,
So if anybody who doesn't want to see my adult artwork, they don't have to go to my site and click at the bottom of that page. Somebody's going to look at that, right?
yeah, of course, nobody's looking at that. And we have to underline, nobody is putting a gun on your chest and says, click on that link and watch this stuff. It's always your free decision of watching something. I remember I had a conversation with somebody and who was entirely against the whole internet. And this was because he said, you have to see what I find if I type that and that into Google. It's disgusting. And I said, but why do you search for it if you don't want to watch it?
Well, I have always, when I have an image online, it's always either filtered in a gallery. If you go to my DeviantArt page, cocks are not going to fly into your mouth from all directions, I promise. You have to set your filters to see adult-themed artwork. I'm not going to catch anyone by surprise. And it's the same with my gallery. You really have to look before you see it.
Yeah,
But you would not imagine the volume of hate mail and death threats and everything else I get from these religious crazy people who go on my page and look at every single picture and then tell me how disgusting it is. It's so funny.
I can't imagine that you get death threats for this. This is weird.
Yeah, I'm here, but it's only drawings. I think people make the assumption that I draw things like this because I'm lonely. No, I draw things like this because it's fun. It's good practice for anatomy.
Yeah, and you practice anatomy a lot.
Yeah.
I have a view of your gallery right now here, and there's one thing that it's titled a work in process, and it's astounding how you do the coloring. I recently embed your coloring tutorial in Manga Studio on my blog, and I always have to say you are one hell of an inker.
Oh, thank you. I work very hard on it.
Your inking is so effing great.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and this is what you're saying. If it looks cool, just inked, black and white, then it's perfect. And then the color is just, like you said, the icing on the cake, or an additional bonus. But you can't make a drawing that sucks when the line work is done. You can't save it with just putting some color in.
Yeah, and I see people do that all the time. They'll draw something and it won't be very good and it will have lots of errors, and they say, well, once I color it, it'll look better. And that's, I tell them that's like putting lipstick on a pig. It's not going to make it look any better. It's going to look like bad line art that you colored.
Yeah, and you are used to a rough critique on your artwork. You said you joined a group of artists in the past, and you were shredding your artwork, and
Yes.
so that you became in the end that great artist.
Yeah, me and some friends got together, and we spent about 3 years in a private group drawing pictures and submitting them for critique, and we ripped each other apart. But it was okay because we all knew each other, and we know that when you tear up somebody's art, you're not talking about them as a person. That's the first thing you have to get past. You have to get past the whole, the ego thing when it comes to your art. It's just lines on paper, and the other people are trying to help you.
Yeah.
And we took it very seriously, and that was about 3 years, and I love doing it. I think I should do it again, honestly. I need to, there's things I could work on. I just don't have the time these days to do like, an anatomy dojo type exercise and work and do everything else I'm doing.
Yeah, and this is also the point, and it's good if you have people like this who tell you how your artwork is. I always say, don't ask your spouse or your children or your grandma. Ask somebody who doesn't has any emotional attachment to you. And
That's very true.
yeah, because they are not saying, oh yeah, this is the same thing as people who say, oh child, you can sing like an angel, go to the X Factor or go to American Idol, they will make a star of you. And, and then these are the idiots who are coming no further than the funniest audition compilations.
Yeah, I think if someone really wants to improve their art,
Yeah.
they need to find somebody. They need to find, who's that guy on American Idol that was really Simon? They need to find their own Simon to tell them, you screwed this up. This looks like crap. Draw it again and be merciless with them.
Yeah.
And that will help them improve. And it's a very painful process. It's a very frustrating process. You hate it while you're doing it. But if you want a good end result, then that's what you do.
Yeah, I have. You have you recognize this the tendency to, if you are not fully satisfied with it, and then you think, oh, the nose isn't that good, or I screwed up the ears, and then you think, oh, nobody will notice it. Just leave it this way. You recognize this, or?
Well, you have to stop at a point. A mistake that I make sometimes is I'll concentrate too much on one part of a drawing and not look at the whole composition, because it's more than just getting the elbows or the nose right. You have to look at the whole picture.
Yeah.
If you stand back, an art teacher told me this once. I was taking a watercoloring class, and she said, stand 6 feet away from your drawing, and that's and just get the overall effect of the drawing. And of course, we're working in a digital format, but you can print it out, or you can stand up and walk away from it for a little while, and then look at it on your monitor and look at the composition. Is it balanced?
Yeah.
Is all the focus on one area of the drawing? Just things like that.
Yeah, and this is great, in fact, with the digital world, because you have the possibility to zoom out. So if you work on details, you most of the time it fills the whole screen. For example, an eye, what you're working on, the eyebrows, the eyelashes, and so on. And then you, from time to time, you just have to zoom out so that you have the whole picture on the screen. And then it's even better just to stand up and then look at it. I tend to have a coffee in between and a cigarette, and then I'm going to look at it more often than not. I think, oh, this sucks. And then comes the part of investigating where did it happen? Where is in fact the portion of the image that makes it suck? It can just be a shoulder what's not in the right angle, or a hand, or something.
Another thing that I've noticed is that if one body part or one part of the drawing is off, it can make the other parts of the drawing look off. And then you might fix the wrong thing. And that's when it helps to have someone else look at it.
Yeah, and you mentioned a great book yesterday night about drawing on the right side of your brain.
Yes, I recommend that book to anyone who wants to be able to draw. I worked my way through it in the 80s, and I would recommend anyone who wants to draw better to even if you have been drawing for a while, it never hurts to go through the exercises in the book. Again, like one of the exercises is copying something from maybe a picture, not tracing mine, but copying a picture. Copy a picture and then turn the picture upside down and draw it upside down and see what it looks like.
Is this a recommendation out of the book, drawing it upside down?
Yes. That's one of the exercises in the book. And I looked on Amazon after we talked last night, and I found the price of the book from 15 cents.
Yeah, I was curious enough, of course. You made me curious about this, and I just looked it up as well before we started this conversation. And I will put a link in the post to the book, and I think I will purchase it.
Yeah, I would recommend for anyone who wants to learn how to draw, just try the book and see. She's not talking about how to draw specific things. She's talking about training yourself to use your brain in an artistic way, which many of us have forgotten how to do. I'm just as guilty as everybody else.
And I think that it's not just for people who just starting out with drawing, but it's also interesting for people who have a long way behind them in the art.
Yeah.
So I can imagine that there are people who, for example, make fantastic drawings, but they always struggle with certain parts of a drawing, and that they can overcome this by reading this book.
That's very true. I was thinking about working my way through it again, just to brush up.
I will definitively, sorry for my accent, have a look at this book. And I think every course, every book just can improve your artwork.
Yeah, I have the usual library of anatomical references. I have the Loomis. I have all of Andrew Loomis books. He's a great artist and explained perspective very well. Those are out of print now, but I have these very old copies of the Loomis books, and I have a lot of just reference material that I refer to while I'm drawing. Most of the time when I draw, I'll have a book next to me because I just can't figure out how to make hand or foot look right. I still stink at drawing feet.
You are not alone. I think everybody has problems with drawing hands, drawing feet. I'm just busy with producing a video series on drawing hand, and it's not supposed to be drawing the perfect hand also, but it's more the purpose of it. It's more to motivate people to draw with me, just during the video, just draw with me, and I think I'm getting better at drawing hands. And I often hear people say there is no way, not one recipe. There is no one good way to draw hands perfectly. There are.
Well, it's just, I think it's a practice kind of thing.
Yeah.
But something that people don't realize is artwork is not just learning a set of symbols and then being able to put the symbols together, unless of course you're illustrating the walls of an Egyptian tomb. If you want your art to look like actual art, you're going to have to learn. You're basically you're 3D rendering something. You're drawing the human body in all different angles and everything, and not just the human body. If you're in comics, you have to be able to draw everything.
Yeah. And last night I browsed through my collection of Witchblade comics, and I focused myself on the hands that were drawn in these books. And not every hand is drawn perfectly. It's just some hands, they are not perfect, but most important, they work. They work the way they are drawn. Period.
Yeah, I was in comics too. Not everything is drawn perfectly. I can open up a lot of my comic books and say, oh, the art just, this foot sucks, or this face sucks, but they're going for the overall effect of the comic page and of the storytelling. And so it works for the story.
Yes. And also David Finch said, I think it was in one of these DVDs I bought, that he sometimes has a situation where the comic book is already in the shelf, and then he goes through the pages and then he thinks, oh Jesus, about his own drawing. From how could I do this mistake and this, and but the public doesn't see it seemingly.
Oh, well, that's just like you look at my webcomic and you say it looks great. You and I see very different things. When I look at my webcomic, I see all of the things that I want to fix.
No, I think if you look at my webcomic, then you see a lot things that have to be fixed. I really think about a reboot sometimes, but I don't think I do this. I think I just will improve it to the next level. It's very hard to do something like that. It's so time intensive, and in fact the show must go on.
That's right. So we just need to. I see webcomics all over the internet where when they started out they didn't look that good, but you know what? The artist improved as they went along.
Yes, there's one webcomic. I don't know if you know it. A Menage a 3.
I have heard of it. I'm not familiar with it though.
You find a link to it on my site under in the left column in the sidebar, where I also placed a link to your webcomic Menage a 3. If you look at this, I think this is just great as well. They work in Manga Studio. They update regularly, just 3 or 4 panels at a time.
Oh, okay, yeah, I've seen this one. I just clicked on it.
Yeah, and this is, when you look at the details, you have to agree there are not that much detail, but the eye of the beholder adds the details by itself sometimes. It's like magic. I think this is very beautiful drawn as well.
Yeah, it's very clean. I've seen this. I remember reading this. And yeah, I like it.
When I see yours, it's more American style, Western style, do I have to say? How I have to categorize this?
It's just generic, I guess Western comic book style.
Yeah, and what I see I'm on the last page at this moment, or page 6, I see manga influences in the hair of the guy that's sitting on the chair.
Yeah, maybe because of the messy hair that he has. That's just, I drew the character with messy hairs. It's, I hate drawing it sometimes.
Yeah, I hate drawing hair as well.
Yeah, I hate drawing hair, which is funny because, of course, the main character, the hair in the comic serves as a timeline. He starts out bald, but then he grows his hair out, so you know where you are in the story by how long his hair gets.
By me personally, it's the other way around. My hair is getting shorter and shorter. I started with a ponytail, and now I just have a couple of millimeters in an attempt to look younger. But I am allergic to hair dye, so I can't hide my gray hair. Yeah,
I really like the look of the long hair and lots of hair, and I like to draw hair, but the process of drawing the hair is very hard for me. It's one of the hardest things to draw, and that's why I'm so thankful for the digital media, because I can start another layer after I draw the people, and then I can draw the hair because I know I'm going to mess up a lot.
So it's the same technique I use. Always when I'm not sure about a certain detail on a character, I just draw it on a new layer.
Right.
So that I don't mess up what I think has worked out fine.
Yeah.
And it's, in fact, very often it's the hair. Then I have a look at the whole thing, and if I'm satisfied with it, then I'm going to merge the layers, so that I don't have this whole bunch of layers that can drive you crazy if you overdo it.
Yeah, I typically, when I'm working in Manga Studio, I will draw the figure. A lot of times I draw the clothes on a different layer, just because I want to draw the figure's shape so that I get the clothes right.
Mm-hmm.
And then I will draw the hair on a separate layer too, because I have a really hard time with hair. And then I will ink the figure and the clothing on the same layer, but I will still ink the hair on a different layer.
Oh. So you always have your security layer for the hair.
Well, yeah, and when you draw hair, there's just so many details. It's easier for me to keep the ink lines consistent if I ink the hair separately from the rest of the figure, and then, of course, I merge the hair down after I'm done with that.
There are very much similarities in how we work with Manga Studio. Now, we are talking for 50 minutes already. This is a longer video than usually, and thanks to YouTube I have the privilege to be able to upload videos that are as long as I want them. And I think we can wrap it up at this point. Or do you have another thing what you want to say?
I can't think of anything right now. I know that my my tutorials that I made for the coloring, I think those are the most boring videos ever. I can't imagine somebody wanting to watch those and then listen to me for for 50 minutes. So I think that's plenty of time.
No, I think that your tutorials were great. Otherwise, I wouldn't have put them on my site, of course.
Well, I hope somebody got some use out of them. They
Yeah.
took a whole weekend to make.
I had use out of them. I really had. And what I discovered, what you are doing different, and what makes it in fact easier for you, is your line work is always closed, so you don't have the problem using the magic wand to fill areas.
Yeah, I do that on purpose.
Yeah.
Because I'm lazy.
Yeah, but it's great that way, and it makes the work much easier. Well, I tend to leave lines open and this kind of things, and afterwards I think, oh Jesus, why did I do this? And then I too lazy to correct it, and then I have to use another technique to fill the area, for example with a quick mask or something like that. And so for me the selection process takes much longer. And this is one thing that I learned from you that I want to apply in my future drawings. Close this goddamn lines.
Yeah, the cleaner your line art is, the easier it's going to be to color.
Yeah, and you have some great advice there, and it's fun to watch your artwork. It's a privilege to the eye. I really love it.
Well, I'm glad you've been enjoying it.
Yeah, otherwise I wouldn't have called you, or you called me. No.
Yeah, I called you.
Just kidding. No, I wanted to have this conversation for a long time, and I'm very glad that you could make some time. And I hope to talk to you again very soon. So stay on the line for another minute while I'm closing this video recording. So I say goodbye to the viewers and see you next time.